I found this really good like Brazilian online bossa nova like radio station.
Mm-hmm.
It's so good. I just have
Bossa Nova, eh? Boop, 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 boom, boop, boop, boom.
I'm just like, of course they play
You're raw.
Gilberto Gil, you know, girl from Ipanema, classic. Tall and slender, love and dumpy. The girl from Ipanema goes walking, and when she you don't know that song?
I don't know that song.
Dude, girl. Oh, whoa. All right.
Were you
Well,
about to say grow up?
yeah.
That
No, 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 no,
sounded
no,
like
not
grow up. Oh my god.
no, no. Girl from Ipanema. No.
Oh,
We're gonna have to stop the stream, and I'm gonna have to give you a lesson about the impact of the song
we'll
by
we'll do it
Gilberto
after.
Gil.
We'll do it after.
N- n- I think people will understand. We can just pause this episode
Yeah,
and
yeah,
work
no, no,
on
no. Yeah,
highlighting
yeah.
Gilberto Gil and his major impact that he had on like bossa nova music and bringing it to the world, and how even the
Mm,
girl that he wrote the song about, like she ended up becoming like a huge model and celebrity and got her own talk show. It like had a bunch of positive, crazy impacts and stuff. And
mm-hmm,
it's a pretty big deal. And he's also named Gil 2 times. So,
mm-hmm.
I gotta, yeah. It's been a big day for Gills. I heard Gil Scott Heron when I went into the tobacco shop earlier. And I was like, hell yeah, you playing Gil Scott Heron? And the guy was like, who's that? And I was like, that's literally the guy reading poetry over the music you're listening to. And he's like, oh. And I was like, what? Who who just has poetry playing? And they were like, I don't know who this poet is.
Yeah, I can imagine. I can imagine people who are like, "Man, I'm really into this poet," and they're like, "I like this poet, but who plays random poetry in their store?" And then is like, "I don't know who this is." It's just
It honestly
somebody
it had a
else's
good like
playlist.
slight hip hop slash like house mixed beat with like the recording of the poetry from the 60s over it. It was like, "Bada." Have you ever heard Gil Scott Heron? Right. We're gonna have to have
No,
a culture
no, we're
night.
not. No,
That's what needs to
I'm
happen.
not getting into it. No, not today.
I'm gonna
We're
put
gonna
on a
get this
7 hour
train. No,
lecture about the history of people named Gil.
no, we are not doing that. We are going. I love his as much as I love history. Let's steer
Gil
clear of the
history.
gills today. Gill history, gillstery, because
Gil
we're gonna
history.
get into an episode. If you are ready, if
Right.
there are people out there ready,
There are many.
you good?
Yeah.
All right,
I mean, they're
let's
gonna be
get
a little
into.
disappointed that we're not doing the lecture, but
I think people will understand.
it's worth waiting for. You're right. All right. Whenever you're
Yeah,
ready, bud.
they'll wait for it. All right. Bombs bursting around you. The sirens wail, telling you to get to your plane so you can shoot the enemy from the sky. The deadly German Luftwaffe shoots down your friends and their planes. It's better for you to die and your plane to survive, they say, so you don't pack a parachute. The engine rumbles to a start and you get to the runway. Enemy machine guns hit the ground around you and you pull up on the stick as you lift off the ground. Almost immediately, you're thrown into action, chasing down enemy craft, guns blazing. You hit one and then two. You can see their smoke trail down through the clouds. You hear the tracer bullets pass right by you, and one hits your leg. It might be over. The pain shoots through your body, and you drop almost straight down through the clouds, and all goes black. Welcome to the Black Cat Report in episode 119. I am Joey, and with me is the well spoken, well drinking, wondrous, maybe Welsh, wandering Gil.
Oh, hey, everybody. I just had one of those moments where it's like, when they're doing the close-ups of folks at the award show, like at the Grammys or the Emmys, and they're just convinced that they're not going to be the one that's receiving all the compliments. That was
Yeah.
me just now.
Oh,
Yeah.
okay.
And I'm just like,
Yeah.
and then Eminem's getting mad and running away in the background. It was weird.
Did he do that?
Yeah, I think. I don't know. Yeah, fuck it. Everything's
I
made
like
up these days anyways.
I
Let's just
like
roll
to
with it.
think that crazy that you know more about an award show than I do. That has to do with entertainers, and generally, that's interesting.
Yeah. It'd be like if I just schooled you on sports. That'd be
Exactly.
weird.
That's kind of weird.
Did they start up the particle collider again? Is that what's going? Did
They
CERN get started up? We're
That's
shifting. We're
that's what it is.
shifting.
Okay, we're shifting
Okay.
brains. Cup of
Everybody, hello.
Gill
My name
getting
is
released
Joey.
tomorrow. Yep.
Um,
Cup of
hello.
Gill is getting released tomorrow. You
Yes.
guys are get excited for that. But as well as Cup of Joey getting released tomorrow slash Cup of Gill, we have done a lot of work getting the Patreon organized. Well, and some new things for you to in each tier. Except, to be fair, it was Gil. Gil stayed up late, didn't sleep, became an alcoholic, got a cocaine habit, and ruined his own life to get all the Patreon organized. He basically had a whole season character arc in the span of 3 to 4 days doing this, didn't you?
Yeah, and even complete with like the divorce and then finding out that the person I just divorced is going to have my child, but then it might not be my child. But they
Mm-hmm.
were also that later they were born and they do have my eyes.
Mm-hmm.
I want them back.
Mm. Gills of our
The
lives.
eyes. They took my eyes.
They took your eyes. Literally, these are new eyes. Did you see Minority Report? Yeah.
These are painted on. All right.
That's how we do it here. Well, you can join up to our Patreon for free, get some awesome perks, and maybe even get an upgrade for this holiday season as the most elusive cryptid Santa Claus or Santa Gil Claus might come through and magically give you a tier upgrade even after Christmas and into the new year. That cryptid don't give a shit what day of the year it is. Gifts galore. But you know what we want to do real quick.
Well, is point out the fact that we don't have an understanding of time because here at Black Cat Report, it's important to keep in mind that
It's time travel time, baby.
Hell yeah.
Woo!
that's
Correct.
right. So
Yes,
you can
we do
always get
not.
a discount. One of the main reasons why we launched the Patreon was no, not to just get your money, which we would appreciate that, but I'm sure you would appreciate your money too.
Hmm.
But it was actually to make it easier to connect with y'all and share all the awesome shit that we want to do because we realized it takes 6 hours just to tell everybody across every platform that we're gonna have a movie night. That's so fucking stupid. We just want one place to post everything, so we're pretty much upgrading everybody that joins in the free tier to higher tiers. So it's pretty sweet and it's pretty worth it. Just wanted to throw that in there.
Yeah. And just for joining, you get a freaking shout out on our
Shout
episodes.
out!
Shout outs. And guess what? Gil is here to do some shout outs. Go ahead, buddy.
All right, bruh. So these folks have already discovered the BCR Patreon magic. Tim, Ian, Rochelle, Dwayne, Max, Morgan, Dragonpaw, Miller's motherfucking monsters, Dwayne again, maybe a different Dwayne. We're just gonna assume it's a different one. Gavin, Jaden, Alyssa, Bree, Michael Extreme, Paranorm Girl, James, Seeley, and of course, our most beloved and sexiest producer, Floppy Kitty.
Bow, bow, bow. Copy Kitty. Hell yeah. Thank you
Yeah.
all for joining our Patreon. You too
Mhm.
can get your name shouted out just literally by signing up and following our Patreon account. It's not that hard.
Super easy.
Links
Super
in the
easy.
show notes. Now we're
Links
done
right
with our
there.
pitch. Well,
Done with it.
we don't do that much, honestly. No, we don't
Mm.
pitch that much.
Not
Yeah,
even enough
just go.
time to bitch about the pitch. You know what I'm saying?
Hmm.
Hmm.
Exactly. Well, something I've been really excited about from writing this script and doing the research for this episode, today's subject I found watching a history documentary that to me, I have gotten really into. Thanks, Dad, who is also a Patreon member. It's them World War II documentaries. But since you hear a lot of the American heroes of the war, Easy Company in Europe and Band of Brothers, which if you haven't watched that show, please do. It's amazing. And even the scientists that worked on creating the atomic bomb with the most recent movie, Oppenheimer, which was honestly probably one of the best movies of last year. And, you know, we're going to go ahead and go into another place. We're going to go into the Soviet Union because you don't hear about it as much as the heroes of the war because honestly, they faced the brunt of the war. We kind of jumped in later on. The British, the Soviet Union got crushed, and we were just like, hey, we're nice and new. We'll come in later and we'll help you out. And
We
yeah.
definitely came in the kitchen and we're like, "Here, I can open that lid," after somebody was just, like, in there for 5 hours beating at it and having it hit them across the head,
Hmm.
basically, and being invaded even though they were supposed to be in a peace treaty together or, like, a mutual non-aggression pact. Yeah.
Yeah, got fucked. And they actually had the highest casualty count of them all. The Soviet Union, like, and I'm talking about 34 million people, I think was close to the number.
Fuck.
Maybe, yeah. That's a whole couple generations of people.
And that's not too long after the Soviet or, like, the revolution
The
either,
Great Purge
where
too
there
after
was
the
also a
revolution.
lot of people killed.
Yeah.
Yeah.
So yeah,
Be
there was a lot of people that got murdered and killed at this time in the Soviet Union, in Germany, so in
Ew.
Austria, in Poland, pretty much in that whole western area or
It's pretty
eastern
popular
area
for
of
a
Europe.
while,
Ah,
just dying.
yeah, right. Yeah. Well, the Russians or Soviet Union, who funnily enough, just like Gil said, signed a non-aggression pact with the Nazis in the beginning of the war, just so that both sides could take half of Poland. And poor, poor Poland, who got attacked on both sides, really had no tanks, had barely any artillery, were still mostly working on horses, and just got
Cavalry.
wrecked. Yeah, got wrecked by Nazi Germany and by the Soviet Union because they both were like, hey, you know who's easy? Poland. And they just literally went poop, closed the gap, and both sides were on looking at each other on the side of the war. So, to be fair, Soviet Union does not start out on the good guys' side of the the Ally side of the World War II. It was kind of they were like, hey, let's just do what we can to take basically take back our losses after World War One, which was a pretty horrible war. It was called the Great War for a reason. Well, today, we're going to talk about Lydia Vladimirovna Litvyak, the White Lily of Stalingrad. And I'm going to say she is actually called the White Lily. And the reason why some people call her the White Rose is because in some of the propaganda, some of the news articles in Europe, in Western Europe, France, UK, and the US, they actually had translated incorrectly the style of flower as the rose of Stalingrad. So
Hmm.
in the actual Russian Soviet Union papers, they called her the White Lily of Stalingrad to go along with her name, with Lydia, Lily Lydia. So the nice alliteration there. They also misnamed it because the German fighter pilots, the Nazi fighter pilots, thought they saw on her side of her plane a rose. So a white rose on the side. So they confused it, saying that she was the White Rose. And I mean, obviously, she was
It's just a
shooting them down.
Nazi's head stuck to the side of the plane. Oh, it must be a rose. Look at that. Oh yeah, I can even see the red. It's just
Mhm. Exactly. I mean, it was kind of funny. Like, it's kind of hard to see because at this time, you were still being able to be within sight of each other to shoot each other down.
yeah,
That kind of changed with more next gen fighters, where you're kind of miles away for the most part. You don't really get to see the other person. But at
yeah.
that time, you were still shooting people pretty much being able to see them within eye line sight. Well, Lydia was born in Moscow, Russia, in August 18th, in 1921. She was born into a middle class Jewish family. Her mother was a shop assistant and dressmaker. Her father was a railwayman, train driver, and a clerk, so he wore many different hats.
All
Well,
of them hard.
all of them hard. Yep. All of them blue collar shirts, too. Well, in between 1936 and 1937, just in between these years, her father was arrested, or what they call disappeared, which most likely meant he was executed during the Great Purge by Joseph Stalin's of Joseph Stalin's political dissidents to consolidate his power over Russia. Well, the Iron Commissar, Lazar Kaganovich, one of Stalin's most enthusiastic cheerleaders, basically jailed or shot 50% of the men in the Soviet Union in this great remaking of Russia.
I'm a huge Sta stan. No, like seriously, like you can't do anything wrong. No, like seriously, don't let him know that you think he could do anything. Like seriously, have you seen this guy? He's fucking fantastic. I mean, like I thought the last dictator was good. You know what I'm saying? Small potatoes. Speaking of potatoes, that's all we've got these days. Isn't that fucking great?
I love potatoes. Yeah, you can mash
Wow.
them, you can stew them, you can beat them,
Mm-hmm.
you can
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm.
ketchup them. Wait, what's
You
we
can
don't
even
have
quell
ketchup.
your hunger pangs.
Yeah, exactly. And you better get to work because one
And
and
you know
two.
what? When they go bad, they get better. Vodka, everyone.
Yeah, exactly. And you're gonna need a lot of vodka. Well,
No, but I'm a
I
huge
wanted to
Stalin stan.
Stalin, yeah, Stalin the man.
Stalin stan,
Well,
man.
to give you some figures on how bad it was for the military. So there was a
Mm,
lot of commanders in the military before the Great Purge and before World
yeah.
War II, basically during. Well,
Mhm.
obviously, Stalin had created this huge movement and basically murdered everybody. Like we said, one and two of the people in the Soviet Union were basically murdered.
Yeah.
15 of 16 army commanders were murdered. 50 of 57 corps commanders, 154 of the 186 divisional commanders, 401 of 456 colonels were killed, and many other officers were dismissed. And I'm putting that in quotations. So, all in all, about 30,000 members of the Soviet army were killed just before World War II started.
Yeah.
Yeah. So basically, took out so many of these people. Well, during all of this, literally during all of this, Lydia grew up in a small 2-bedroom house about a few blocks away from the Kremlin. So honestly, not too far from where all the deaths were happening.
She's
Oh.
just like sitting there, just being like having flashbacks to the time Stalin walked outside and was checking his pockets. And she's like, "You need a light?" And he's like, "Yes." And then she like gave him, she's like, "Who's that, mommy?" "Oh my God." She's like, "Whew."
Go back inside. Ooh, well, while she was young, she did the normal youth activities in Russia, joining the Little Octoberists, which was a youth
Aw.
organization created in 1924 after the Russian Revolution, specifically named for the Bolshevik Revolution that happened in October. So she became what they call a pioneer and learned through that organization until she turned 14. She began flying at the age of 14 in
Holy
1935.
shit.
So quick, graduating from the Central Aero Club. She was actually too young
They had
to
a
do
club for
this,
that?
but she was given special permission to do it by the instructor at 14.
In all fairness, the original instructor had been disappeared a few weeks earlier, and it was just a bunch of kids in charge of the school.
Yeah, they were about 9-ish. And they're like, "You pass, you'll pass."
How do you have a fucking aero club? Like, planes hadn't even been around that long at that point. And they're just like, "Yeah, whatever, just see what the kids will do with them." They make great stocking stuffers.
I'm sure.
Like
Honestly, I think that they hadn't been around that long, but people were starting to create them and they were just making random stuff. So they were like, "Cool, let's just try to fly this. Let's try to fly this." Um
Yeah, fuck
a
it.
good example. I would say maybe drones was the same thing. Was
Yeah.
similar because drones really hadn't been around, or at least in the public eye, for a long time. But as soon as they
Mm,
became like within like a year or two, people were already having drone clubs. And so people are
yeah.
flying drones, even though e- they might
Now
be
it's just
14 or 15 flying
frick
drones, maybe even 8 or 9,
yeah.
a little
Now,
safer.
like, everybody in Jersey has one at this point. It's just like you can't go anywhere without a drone. That makes sense.
Yeah,
Yeah.
you see them everywhere. Well, by 15, Lydia was already doing numerous solo flights and
What the fuck?
serving as a flight instructor at the Aero
What
Club.
the fuck? Dude,
Yeah,
I just don't have any words. That's just
she's that good. Some
fucking shit.
people have it, and
Yeah.
I think that's just the craziest thing, that some people at the youngest of ages just have that like unique talent for one specific thing and they just keep doing it. And it's crazy to see that. Like, when I was younger, I had a lot of hot hours, but I was unique talent of playing tennis. Like I was very good at it and it
Mm,
came so easy to me. I wasn't obviously like flying a plane at 15, doing crazy things, but like you sometimes you just have a unique talent that just like flowers pretty
Yeah.
easily, and she had the same thing, you know? Well, she
Yeah.
even became a flight instructor at the Kirov airport in Moscow from 1940 to 1941. So she's super young, but in a major airfield, she becomes a flight instructor.
Fuck.
And she sets a record for 8 hours of instruction every single day. She was setting records
Whoa.
at that young age. Well, by the time the
This
Germans
these records
invaded,
date back all the way back to last month when we started them. Holy shit.
when we purged all the other records,
Yeah.
right?
Went
Well,
in
by
and
the
just
time
erased everything and rewrote it. Just Photoshop the
Oh,
records.
race. Yeah. We always, here in Soviet Russia, we always write in pencil so they can erase it.
Stalin's
Yeah.
order.
hmm Well, by the time the Germans invaded Russia in 1941, she had already trained 45 pilots.
Holy fuck, dude.
Huge. Well, we
Damn.
are going to skip through a lot of actual huge historical events and summarize them quickly instead of, going through a huge long laundry list of what happened in between 1939 and 1941, right? So
Wasn't that big of a deal.
basically, Germany invaded Russia, who was an actual ally of Germany through the Non Aggression Pact on June 22nd of 1941. This was called Operation Barbarossa and pretty much put the
Barbarossa.
Soviet and pretty much put the Soviet Union on its heels, driving hugely and deeply into Russia and getting all the way to Stalingrad, Moscow, and Leningrad. The
Mm.
operation was actually named for Frederick I Barbarossa, or his nickname Redbeard, who was the 12th century Holy Roman Empire emperor, who was the 12th century Holy Roman emperor and crusader. Which is kind of funny nowadays, a lot of the what do you call them? The basically racist organizations quote a lot of the Crusader textbooks and a lot of the Crusader things, which kind of goes hand in hand with Nazi Germany naming everything after a Crusader. Go figure.
Yeah.
Yeah.
But anywho,
Yeah. But
skipping
any hazel.
past the history.
Yeah. The idea was basically clear the land of any Slavic people and exterminate the populace so they can spread the Lebensraum. Well, to give a little context so that we can understand why the Soviet Union fought so hard and so bitterly, basically fighting tooth and nail, because behind the advance of the Nazis, they were exterminating pretty much any Slavic people in the areas as well as the Jewish population. Well, basically anyone that wasn't Germanesque or people that were the Untermensch, which is subhuman. And I want to explain this little part because, like, it shows why they were throwing everything at the Germans. It shows why everybody was getting into the war, and why everything was happening. Well, by the end of the war,
Mm.
Germany had murdered over 1 million Soviet Jewish people, starved 3.3 million Soviet military, and millions upon millions of civilians starved to death. Well, Hitler decided that he would put a lot of effort and force into taking Stalingrad because it was named after the leader of the Soviet Union, Joseph
It's
Stalin.
a pretty
And
big.
it pretty
It's a
much
pretty
had it
blow.
surrounded. Yeah.
Yeah.
And pretty much had it surrounded and was taking it inch by inch and street by street. The Soviet
Yeah.
generals were doing their best to hold the line and keep Hitler from overwhelming their armies. And I mean, basically just barely holding the line.
Yeah. The line was that's literally the front door of their house at that point. At that point,
Exactly.
they are literally just shooting out of their own front windows.
Yeah, it was horrible. And
Yeah.
this is where Lydia is, right? So this is where Lydia Litvyak is. All these people are in basically Germany's on their doorsteps. They're fighting to
Mm.
keep their homes from being blown apart. And they're probably fighting in their blown apart homes. So it's pretty bad.
Yeah.
Sorry, something just went across the screen. I didn't see it.
You good? You,
Oh, yeah, I'm good. Sorry.
was there like a notification for Riverside or?
Yeah, I didn't see what it was, but it still says it's live recording. So
Okay.
weird.
Let
Okay.
me check something super quick here, bud.
hmm
Just in case. I don't know if I can adjust this while we're recording, but here we go. Just as a okay, cool. I was making sure that auto stop wasn't turned on in case something did happen.
Yeah,
Yeah. Okay. Proceed. This is
cool.
this is what it means to be part of our live studio audiences. Hey,
Mm-hmm.
so
You get to
shit
see the
happens.
craziness of technical errors,
See
maybe.
it all. Yay!
Mhm. Well, when Barbarossa happened, Lydia immediately put her application in to get trained in the Yakovlev Yak 1 aircraft and join the military aviation unit. However, the bare minimum you had to fly was 1,000 hours to be approved to join that unit. Lydia had only flown about in between 800 to 900 hours. Like, it's not that much difference, right? I
They,
mean, 100 hours is a lot, but
yeah, but I will say though, um, first off, respect that the Russians were ahead of time, or the Soviets were kind of like pretty far advanced with like the 1,000 hour rule, right? About
mhm.
mastering things. Interesting. But I do think it's funny that probably 90% of the instructors were trained by Lydia. I can almost guarantee you that's where it's going. They were like, we can't let you in here. Like, bro, what the
Yeah, it was pretty dumb. But what's funny is she goes, I'm just going to fudge it a little. So she
Yeah.
fudged it by 100 hours to get herself up to 1K hours. And
Oh yeah.
still, she was rejected. And there wasn't
What?
a clear reason why she was rejected yet. I think it was just one of those things where they're just like, no.
Also, it's
I,
unbelievable because she was probably like what, like 17 at the time?
so
18
this is
maybe?
1941. She was 20.
21. Okay, so she was 20. That's
20.
still a lot of hours to rack up by the time you're 20 though.
Yeah.
That's a shit ton of hours. Okay, sorry.
Yeah. It's a lot. Well, eventually, she was let into the military aviation training taught and led by Marina Raskova, who at the time
Hmm.
had become famous and also became personal friends with Joseph Stalin. And that is
Oh
very
geez.
important to how she climbed the hill because she was a Stalin stan, as Gil was saying
Mm.
earlier. Hmm. Which she was actually a badass pilot herself, not taking that away from her. But a lot of other people couldn't climb because they weren't friends with Joseph Stalin. This is kind of the
Being good
nature.
at things didn't really ensure your safety at this
It
time
did
in
not.
Russia.
No. No. Well,
The most
it
talented general. It's like, did he just fart? Kill him. Like,
gone. Ugh. Well, oops. Well, she was the one that founded the first three female aviation units: the
hell
586th
yeah.
Fighter Regiment, the 587th Bomber Regiment, and the 588th Night Bomber Regiment. And these would
Three
help
in
in
a row.
itself turn the tide in the war. Also,
Hell yeah.
I did some digging, and when the first female fighter pilot in the United States flew?
2006.
1993. That was not too bad. But in
Uh,
1993, in Operation Desert Storm, Brigadier General Jenny
God.
Flynn was the first one. She was also the first one to command an air group.
Jesus Christ.
It was pretty crazy. She did both at the same time.
Yeah. Yeah.
Yay, America. Well,
Ugh.
technically, actually, she was the first out of most everyone else, to be fair. Um, well, anyways, Lydia was placed in the all female 586th Fighter Regiment. Well,
Mm.
in the Soviet Union at this time, a lot of the military was watched over and investigated heavily because it's the military they wanted to breed out ideology and make them hardened soldiers. And if you've seen Top Gun, which I hope you have because both are actually pretty dang good movies, Lydia acted like the fighter pilots in that movie. And I feel like to be a great fighter pilot, you have to be dangerous and live life on the edge.
Makes sense.
Yeah, yeah.
Hmm.
Well, she did more than some of those people, which is kind of funny to see. She would go out dancing with all the men at the dancing halls and was caught doing that. The investigator that was tasked with making sure the fighter pilot stayed in line, Nina Ivakina, described her as a swanky, flirtatious aviatrix, which is an awesome way to say that you're an amazing fighter pilot. I would take that
She's
name.
so goddamn good and sexy. Like,
Mm-hmm.
damn.
You know, Nina thought she was attractive. I can imagine Nina was just like, she's swanky, flirt.
She's dancing
She's a
with
goddamn.
all the guys, and we can't allow this. It's like, well, why? We just can't.
You just can't. They're in the military, but that's kind of what they do. No, no. It's kind of funny because, like, that's what the Soviet Union did. They wanted to breed out all the ideologies in these people. And to be fair, in most military units is kind of how it works. You kind of get
Yeah.
bred into one particular unit. So you become friends quicker. It was just more hardcore at this time because of Joseph Stalin, because of the way they were trying to remake the Soviet Union. And so
Yeah.
it became a little bit more hardened than most of the other militaries. Cool. Except for the meth filled Germans. That was funny. Terribly funny.
Yeah.
Well, Nina Avakina was sent by the Communist Party to find any ideological weakness in the. Oops, sorry. Nina Avakina was sent by the Communist Party to find any ideological weaknesses that were in the aviation pilots. Even though Even though Lydia was being watched, she didn't give a fuck. And she still went out dancing, still lived life on the edge. And when asked about it, she expressed absolutely no remorse. In a letter to her mother, Lydia wrote something that I thought summed up her perfectly. She said, Of course I want, of she said, Of course, what I want is to live, if only a little, but a wild, interesting life. The hour will soon come when we soar on the wings of hawks, and the life we live will be very different.
Hmm.
hmm She's like, I'm going to do what I want. I know everything's going to change, but I just don't care.
Yeah. Damn.
hmm
She's a badass.
She is a badass. Well, even in the savagery, sleeplessness, wartime, when most people would barely even showered, she kept her style. In the Russian military at this time, women were given the same uniforms as men, even the same underwear as men to kind of keep everything chip chop,
To
same
be
shit.
fair, the men's underwear were G strings.
Yeah, they don't talk about that though. They don't talk about, you know what?
They couldn't afford
They
the
don't
rest of the fabric. It was actually a very practical way to approach the
I was gonna
situation.
say they don't talk about that enough because honestly, if you watched a Soviet Union soldier on the field, do you know how
Mhm.
sleek and quick they were in their movements getting onto the next one? G strings.
Exactly. G
Now, if only
strings.
the U.S. military was listening.
You know when the first issue G string was in the US military?
No.
1993.
Oh, um, given to a lieutenant.
We're just so backwards assed sometimes.
hmm Yeah, literally, and that's when they walked in backwards. Well, the women were even told to keep the same trimmed hair as the men, so as to keep conformity. But Lydia said again, "Fuck that," and kept her hair long. So yeah, she just didn't care. She was like, "I'm gonna do what I want,
Just
no matter what."
takes an earbud out in the middle of the announcement. It's just like, first off, fuck the just like listening to Tupac. She's like, what?
Yeah.
What?
Yeah. What? What do you want? Huh?
What?
What? Well, she traded with the hospital for peroxide and used radiator oil to dye her hair blonde. I'm like, man, that's that's she's definitely going for it all.
Damn.
Yeah. Well, she took the fur off her boots and made a collar on her aviator jacket, which was the only reason she got put into which was the only reason she got put into solitary confinement. This was the reason, not because all the other things that she did.
You can't be both friends with Stalin, a badass and good at your job, and fashionable. Look, it's 2 out of 3 that you pick your choices.
Yeah, one of those is sending you to jail. Well, she eventually was released from solitary confinement when she agreed to put the fur back onto
She
her
gave
boots.
herself a nose ring.
Yeah.
They were like, we can't do anything with her.
She's just gonna do whatever she wants, anyways. Well, one thing that was even more ludicrous that she did, well, when you compare it to the Soviet Union way of military life, was that
Mhm.
she wore chrome boots. Think about this in the time period.
What?
She wore chrome colored boots compared to everybody else that barely had
N-
boots, probably.
no, I don't like wore like fucking metallic painted boots.
She did.
She's like, so the enemy can't see my feet when I'm flying above 'em." What
Exactly. Yeah,
does
because
that
they're the same color as the. Yeah.
do? See, you complained about my dancing. Now what? Can't even see me dance.
Yeah,
Where'd they
can't
go?
see me dance. My feet are too fast. Well, this is going to endear her to you, Gil, if she hasn't been already. Her favorite color was black. Black cat report,
Yay!
baby. Yep.
Hell
And pretty much
yeah.
every color Gil wears is black. So,
More or less, yeah.
yeah. Well,
Yeah.
what set her apart on the battlefield is that she
Mm.
actually had a white lily, like we talked about earlier, painted on the side of her aircraft, which was completely, it doesn't really matter against Soviet regulations because she didn't care in
Gave
them
up.
anyway, so that doesn't matter. Well, she would also wake up and she would wake up really early before she'd go out on a call and she'd pick fresh white roses and put them in the cockpit with her as she flew as some sort of good luck charm.
Hold up.
Hmm.
I just picture you know how in like World War II, um, all the fighter pilots like or all the planes like they always had like pinup girls and stuff on the side.
Yeah,
Hers was just like the trucker mud flap, but it was Stalin with like a lily in his.
yeah. Stalin's face on the back floating in the wind.
It was just Stalin like. They're like, dude, seriously, you have to stop.
You have to take that down. She's like, actually,
Stalin
Stalin really
walks
liked
by and he's like,
it.
finally, someone that appreciates my physique and just walks away. And I was gonna paint you.
I wanted that. Yeah, damn.
She got
Dude.
my large areolas just right. She's good. No, this is fine. I approve this.
Yeah, this is the one thing
Stalin.
I approve. Yeah, the one thing.
Finally.
And now I'll be remembered the way I've really wanted to be remembered.
The
Shirtless.
well trimmed chest with large areolas.
Hmm. Well, let's quit Stalin. Well, this pissed off a lot of the other Soviet pilots because they actually had to use her aircraft after her. And I'm saying it's her aircraft because she's the best. And they're just having a white lily on the side of their aircraft. They also literally
Mhm.
get into the aircraft and there's just a bunch of flowers sitting around there. It's like, and it's mostly, when she transfers, it's mostly men that are using her aircraft because it's her and
Yeah.
another woman who are the only women in that unit besides the two mechanics that they bring with them. But at the beginning, it
Yeah.
was an all women aircraft. She just eventually moves to an all male aircraft group besides her and another person. So it's kind of funny because they started getting pissed off, like, can you not leave this in the aircraft after you? And she's like, but I like them.
I like the way I stink, and these flowers are fucking that up. Could you clean up these goddamn
I
flowers?
smell. Well, because Lydia Litvyak disagreed with Roskova, she disagreed with the person that took her in the flight school and took her into the flight unit.
Okay.
She mainly disagreed with her because Roskova had a cold personality. Go figure. And Riskova also couldn't fly due to a previous wound. And what was crazy is that most of the people that were in her unit actually did not like Riskova, who was the leader of the air unit, because she
Okay.
couldn't fly anymore. They thought that because she wasn't basically one of them anymore, she was like giving them unheard of terrible tasks because she was like, I'll just send them to their death. It doesn't matter because I'm not going to die. And that was kind of happening to a lot of these people in this unit. And so all of the people underneath of her just kind of got pissed off.
Kind of like a high school football coach that's just like, no, you're never gonna make it that way, and everybody's like, you never even went to college, dude. What the fuck?
Yeah, you never played football. You haven't played football
Bro.
since high school, and you're like 50, Like, that's kind of what it was. Well, Due to this, Lydia got sent to Stalingrad, which was pretty much a
Mm.
death sentence at this time, where the fighting was the hardest against Nazi Germany. When Lydia arrived, she was seldom sent on missions due to her superiors feeling like women were not equal to men in fighting situations in the air, because she transferred to the all male regiment, which her and another
Mm.
female went to that regiment together with two more mechanics, like I just said. But it was the 437th Air Regiment where she actually started flying high, which was the one she just went to. It's kind of funny. They didn't send her out at first, and then they're just like, all right, we kind of don't have any pilots to send up anymore.
We have
So
more planes than pilots. I guess you can have one.
I guess you can have one. Yeah. Just don't
Like
put any
for some reason the kindergartner aviation club hasn't really picked up yet, so
Yeah,
we've
we're
got all
close.
these surplus planes.
Yeah. And we're actually starting to lose more planes than pilots. I don't know how that happens. It's just kids running planes into running the planes into the planes on the ground accidentally. How do they even take off? They're 3.
We really need to stop putting booster seats in all these planes.
Well, on September 13th, 1942, at just 21 years of age, she scored her first 2 kills, and only
Damn.
just 3 days after arriving in Stalingrad. So, at first they didn't want to put her up in the air, and this is like 2 days. They didn't want to put her up in the air
Yeah.
because they're like, "Okay, cool, like she's a woman, she can't fly." And then they're like, "Day 3, all right, we need to put her in the air." And as she gets in the day on her first day of flying, she kills 2 people.
Damn.
Yeah. These first 2 kills would make her the first female fighter pilot to shoot down an enemy aircraft. And she just didn't kill 1, she got 2, which is fucking crazy. Just some
That's
people don't
fucking
even get 1.
nuts, dude. Yeah. I guess we never
Well,
really addressed that, like how hard it is for a fighter, like for two planes, like fighter pilots, jets or planes or
mhm.
whatever. Like it's a really it's I need to say this early. It's a really fucking big deal if like over the entire career of a fighter pilot, if they have 3 kills.
Yep.
If they have 3 takedowns, the hat trick, right? Like that's like you're like literally people that are higher above than you are like saluting you and crying. They're like, God damn it, he's good. Like
Yep.
it's a pretty fucking huge deal. So to like, yeah, basically get 2 in one day, you know. And she's
Yep.
probably just sitting there saying something like cocky as fuck, just being like, I had to make up for the days you wouldn't let me fly. Hmm. Walks away in chrome boots. Doop, doop, doop,
Literally, yeah, she didn't. She
doop.
didn't care. She's going all in. She was in an air
Damn.
group of 4 Yak 1s, and her first kill was of a Ju-88 bomber. The second plane she shot down was called a Bf 109, which was piloted by an 11 victory fighter ace, Staff Sergeant Erwin Mayer, which was on the tail of her squadron commander, Rose Beleva. She basically saved her squadron commander's life by doing this.
By killing the other side's like one of their lead people. She
11
just like
victories.
flew straight into See, like Frodo needed her. Frodo and Sam needed her. She would just went in like took out Sauron in like one day. One day.
Yeah.
Also, when you were gonna say 11 squadron, I thought you were gonna say an 11-year.
Oh,
She
the
did
Germans
this
weren't
by
that
killing an 11
the Germans weren't that they weren't that what is it called?
before
They weren't
child
that
labor
desperate
laws.
yet. They weren't child labor. I mean, talking about their morals at the
Ugh.
time, it didn't matter. Well, Mayer actually survived the crash by parachuting out and was captured by the Soviets. I want to say something that's funny because
Hmm.
Mayer was brought to meet the person who shot him down, which was kind of a thing in the Soviet
Yeah,
Union and the
yeah, yeah.
Germans. They were like, "Hey,
It was a
let's,
respect
you
thing.
need to, respect thing." And especially because he killed 11 of the Soviets. And as they
Mm.
brought him up, there stood Lydia Litvyak. Mayer thought it was a
Chrome
joke, and
boots,
yeah,
platinum blonde hair, probably an all of like 5'2" tall, not even making eye contact, chewing gum, It's like listening to Tupac,
yep,
just like, not giving a no,
yeah.
sorry.
He thought he was. They thought they were joking. He was like, "Oh, come on, really? No, this is not the
Yeah.
person that shot me down." And he laughed. But then after he laughed, Lydia looked at him and then started
Ooh.
going into detail of all the maneuvers that she and him did until she shot him out of the
Ooh.
sky. And Mayer actually was impressed with this and then bowed to her. He then offered her
Whoa.
his watch. He was like, "You killed me.
Whoa.
Like, this is a respect thing.
It's
Like,
my
here
good
you
luck
go. You
watch.
won."
She's like, no, it's not.
Exactly. She said she
Damn.
declined and said, "I don't
Damn.
accept gifts from the enemy."
Oh.
It's like,
Fuck
boom,
yeah, dude.
twice. Shot him down with the boom and then boom on his head. Dunked on him. Well, the very next day, on September 14th, she shot down another decorated German fighter ace who was in another Bf 109 named Lieutenant
Whoa.
Hans Fuss.
Okay.
Fuss. Fuss. Fuss.
Is that
Who
is
gives
that
a
the third
fuss?
person or is it the second person?
That's the third. The third she shot down.
Damn. So
Hmm.
she's on day 4 with
She's
only
on
2
day
days
4.
of flying, and she's
Hmm.
already taken down
Yep. She
a
hit his
massive
fuel
watch
tank with her
collection.
tracer rounds. And it's just super easy. She just like boom, 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 gone, done, easy. Well,
Mm.
on September 27th, which was 13 days after that, she scored another kill, knocking out a Ju 88 bomber. That is, if I want to say, that's 4 kills, if I'm correct. So within, I guess, 15 days of being there, I think
Right.
4 or 5 kills.
Yeah. Who's keeping track?
Pretty fucking damn. Who's keeping track? I'm
Yeah.
trying to. I
Yeah.
mean, it's
Yeah.
hard because there's a lot of people. I'm not going to go through every single kill she had because kind of all the same if you
Technically,
got behind him.
she's a mass murderer, but we're not going to go there.
Yeah, I mean, they're Nazis though. So
That's true. And they're not people. Yeah.
I
Okay.
don't know.
Cool.
It's
Yeah.
hard to deviate from, things like that. So we're not
It's
going to
not.
get into that. But technically this could be a true crime. In Stalin's eyes it definitely was a true crime. Everything was a true crime. Well, throughout 1941 and 1942, she moved back and forth between squadrons, still flying and
Mhm.
still making kills. Well, in February of 1943, she was given the Order of the Red Star and was promoted to junior lieutenant. She was also selected to become a free hunter, or in Russian, okatniki, okatniki, which means she was
Nailed it.
experienced enough to just go hunt and shoot down her own targets. She had no general mission.
She's just like, been doing that the whole fucking time, but I'm glad that you guys finally found a spot to be comfortable with me because I wasn't gonna fucking change. So
Yeah,
is this
no,
just
she
like
just
a this is the equivalent, I guess, in like to put it into anime terms in Hunter x Hunter, right? Like if you pass these really arduous tests, very complicated, great anime, then you get this thing. Well, you become a hunter and you get a hunter card, like
yeah.
an actual dedicated card which allows you to go anywhere in the world, do anything you want, but it also puts you above all of the world governments. And so
Oh,
you're legally allowed to kill anywhere if you have a hunter card. So she basically just got her hunter card. And now she's
yeah.
just like, they're like, there's a raid. She's like, yeah, but I'm sleeping. And then she just goes out randomly and flies whenever the fuck she wants. She could just,
Yeah. She
it's
can pretty
literally
much
a
do what he wants.
license to rogue. Damn.
Yeah, and well, the difference is that now she doesn't. There's no specific orders that she has to follow, which is so good for her because she was rogue. So literally, yes, like you said earlier, she was doing this already, but she was kind of almost in a little bit of guidelines because she was staying within like her wingman, her air group, and now she kind of has this basically here's your hall pass to go kind of wherever you want, even without an air group.
Get out of
So it's
Siberia
kind of
free card. Yeah.
exactly, yeah, get out of jail
Mm.
free. And she was like, "Hey, I probably won't even survive the war, so doesn't matter to me."
Rips it up.
Yeah, yeah,
Yeah.
I'd rather go to
Damn.
jail. Well, on March 1943, she was wounded for the first time, which is crazy. She's been flying for about 2 years in the war, and she gets wounded for the first time. Her air group was attacked by a dozen German Ju 88s, which was double the amount of Soviet Yaks they had. She ended up shooting down one of them, but was attacked out of nowhere by two more that came down and dive bombed through the clouds to get her, and she got
Mm.
shot through the leg. To get away, she flew headfirst into the German formation. Pretty much the most deadly game of chicken you can imagine. And the German squadron, yeah, they broke first and she flew home, literally making
Women
it
be
onto
crazy,
the
right?
tarmac.
Yeah, say crazy.
Yeah,
What the
she
fuck?
literally, she just made it onto the tarmac just before she passed out because of loss of blood. So she's basically
Look, dude.
blacking out as she's landing, and she hits the ground and then stops and blacks out.
Damn.
Fucking nuts.
It's
She
badass.
only stayed in bed for just a few days to recuperate and then caught a transport back to the front line.
Fuck, dude.
She's nuts. She's like, can't control me. I'm out of here. Well, her next great feat caught the eye of many in the Soviet Air Force. Not that she hadn't already done it before, but now people higher up were starting to listen. This is going to sound funny too, because it's kind of stupid to think about. German intelligence used hot air balloons for reconnaissance. I don't know if you knew that, even at this time.
I can see that.
Yeah. Well, they'd use
They
it to get the
all
bear.
stood outside of Hitler's speeches collecting the air.
Yeah. So much hot air coming to those
We have an
speeches.
unlimited supply.
We have to ration it. It's only going to the soldiers.
And now that we don't need body bags because we're just doing bad things with everybody, we have Aussie free bags.
Yeah, literally, they did, and it's really bad. But to me, when I looked at this, I went like, I know they had zeppelins and they used, flying air machines basically to go travel and stuff like that. But when I look at the idea of the technology coming out and the fighter planes that were going literally 200 to 300, sometimes more miles per hour, they were using hot air balloons for reconnaissance. And I guess they could get lower and have more time to, recon the areas, especially big, large swaths of land like Russia. And I guess that helped in the area. But what what was
Still
weird
works
to
to this day.
me.
Look at China last year. Anyways, still works.
Oh man. But wasn't that just a balloon? Wasn't that just a small balloon? I'm not sure.
No, no, no,
It
no.
was a hot
They
air
were
balloon?
actually no, no, no. They were kind of like weather balloons. I don't want to sidetrack too much, but they were basically kind of like hot air balloon or weather balloons.
Mhm.
But the good thing about a balloon is, like you were saying with them standing still, is like if you're monitoring a channel or a valley or basically like a section of the country and you're just trying to track like when folks cross over something, balloons are fucking great. They're really hard to spot. They go 24 hours, basically never really run out of gas. You know what I'm saying?
That's true.
And like you can just monitor the fuck out of shit where it's like with a jet, you got to put somebody up in the air. You have a limited amount of time. And
Mhm.
basically, if they don't see something in the 2 seconds because they're going 200 miles an hour or whatever,
Yeah,
they
you're
don't
not gonna
see
see
it
it.
right then. You're not going to see shit. So I'm just
Yeah.
saying, balloons.
No, makes sense.
Yeah.
I just thought it was
Which
interesting with
was
all
the
the
job of the
technological
guy.
advances.
Remember the movie Up? Do you remember Operation Paperclip Connection? Makes me wonder, where did he get all them balloons?
Operation Barbarossa. That wasn't his history, because then it makes you not like that guy at the end of the Up. At the end of that movie, if he actually was in Operation Barbarossa, it changes the meaning of that movie quite a bit.
I've never seen that movie, but that's how I remember.
That's how
People
I
are like,
imagine it.
"You need to see it. It's horribly fucking heartbreaking within 2 seconds." And I'm like, "That doesn't interest me at all, actually. I'm in a good mood." They're like, "No, you should see it." And they're like, "Yeah, it'll make you cry." And I'm like, "I don't wanna cry." I don't so I don't yeah, I don't watch it.
Hey, Gil, you should actually watch the movie Up. I've heard it's pretty damn good and it'll make you cry in the first 2 seconds. Well, anyways, these hot air balloons were pretty much heavily guarded by German fighters, and every other fighter who tried to take one down was chased away or shot down by the German squadrons guarding it. So what's funny is, to me, and why I was getting into it, is I was like, man, it should be really, 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 really easy to shoot down one of these balloons. And as we found out last year, 2024, it's not very easy to shoot down nor find, like you just said. So funnily enough, Lydia devised a way to fly completely around the balloon and the guarding fighters and attack it from behind, which is a kind
Mm.
of duh moment to be like, hey, go around the fighters, hit it from behind, and outmaneuver it. Yay.
What if we
She
went
actually,
around the balloon? And they're, this will never work.
well,
This is why we
never.
can't have women pilots. Look, we need
No,
to go
no.
straight towards the planes that are blocking us from the balloon. I
Mhm.
can't believe you, Lydia, out of all people who flew towards him before, wouldn't be down with this idea. Just like,
No,
that was different. No, it's
it's not different. We are following you blindly, literally. We do everything you do. Well, let's fly around. I'm saying let's fly around it.
Mm-mm. Okay, I've got an
What?
idea.
Fly into it?
We're going to sharpen bamboo and we're going to find the tallest tree. We're going to wait for
We're gonna wait till it comes by, then we're gonna throw it up as high as we can.
It's our only option.
Genius. You are promoted. you're going to you're going to the Kremlin.
Do we have some of those arrows that we got in Poland? Do we have any of those bows and arrows?
I think we got a horse or two.
We'll throw
Well,
horses.
we'll throw. That's what we're doing. Do you have a trebuchet? We're going back in time to fix our back in time problem.
Oh yeah? You want to be retro? You want to be a hipster with your warfare with balloons? Fuck this.
Trebuchets are
Plague
coming.
bodies, go!
yeah, yeah. Actually, in that area, probably was
Oh fuck,
plague
he's got
bodied
sticks
a
and
lot.
stones. Run, run, run!
Run, fly, hit the gas, hit the gas.
Where the
We're
hell
going
did they get
higher.
a T-Rex?
Man, this war went sideways.
Oh my god, he's a carnivore and we're now de-evolved to the primordial ooze. We need to get on land quick.
No, go. Oh God.
Or it really
Zombie
sets
abuse.
humanity back, but we don't really clarify how. Anyways.
Yeah, not by deaths, but by technological evolution, de-evolution, I guess. Well, obviously, Lydia devised the way to fly completely around the balloon and hit it from behind. And she did.
Turn
She
left.
took it down completely by surprise, becoming one of the first to
Mm.
ever take down a German balloon in the Soviet Air Force. Which, like, you can literally say, fucking duh. Like,
She
go
just
around
is
the
flying
balloon.
away. She smirks. She's like, men never expect you to hit them from the back.
Bloom.
Fly
Yeah.
down it.
Yeah. And they literally, she was the first one, which is,
Damn.
yep, pretty crazy. She's hit a lot of firsts already.
That's got to count for like 12. You know what I'm saying? A
Yeah.
full
Yeah.
fucking bullet. Come
I
on.
mean, there probably was like 3
You
or
know?
4 people in there too.
Yeah, but it's like the size of like 30 planes. I don't know. Should have gave her more credit.
True. Yeah. Well, not too long before that, Lydia, just like a little bit before that, Lydia had actually been transferred to the 73rd Air Regiment under the command of Captain Alexei Solometin and flew as his wingman. Now, there was some contention on whether the two actually, Alexei and Lydia, got married in secret during this time and had some illicit fun and dealings. And because what is known is that Alexei fell in love with Lydia, but Lydia was actually probably more of comme ci, comme ça, you know,
Mm.
of Alexei. Comme ci is like so so in French. You know, she's kind of fair weather on him. She was like, maybe I like him, maybe I don't. I don't
Mm.
know. He's just a pilot. I mean, if you look at Lydia and like look at her story, I'm pretty sure that's how she was. That's how she was with everyone. She's like, fuck it, I don't care. Whatever's gonna happen
Yeah.
happens.
Yeah.
You know. Well, but in late May on the 21st, Alexei died in front of the entire regiment while training a new pilot. And as I'm laughing, I can see a baby driving the airplane and him in the back being like, all right, now turn left. Your other left. Your other left. Bam.
No, that's down. Hit the brakes. Oh, fuck, your feet are too short.
They didn't make booster seats big enough for the babies.
People don't talk about how Baby Driver was a sequel. Anyways.
It was a long lost sequel. I think they made it really early on in World War II, and it just got lost in the it got lost in the purge. It actually got released after Glasnost.
Mm.
that's what happened. Finally, the the movie was released. Yeah,
At least from the
taking the joke a little
archives.
too far. After this, Lydia decided to only fly dangerous combat missions. Before this, she was basically like, I'll take some. This is funny. Before this, she was taking like recon missions. She was taking anything else that she could take. But after this, and after Alexei died, she goes, all right, time,
Mm.
fuck it. Let's just go only dangerous combat missions. Stuff that I might not even come back from. So,
So she's like already like a hardcore badass, and she's like, you know what? Fuck it. I'm gonna go hard. And everybody's like, what have you been doing? I'm taking off the cuffs, you know what I'm saying? I'm not gonna hold myself back anymore. And they're just like, what the fuck?
yeah, she did not care. She's like, all right, time to go farther. It's time to go farther.
Damn.
Hmm.
Damn.
She was
I'm gonna
hell
leave
bent.
lilies in every plane, not even my own. Fuck you guys. We're all about to be smelling good.
God damn it, get the lilies out of my plane, Lydia. It's like, no,
God damn.
no.
She started. There's a small bonsai farm in the back of my plane now, and like I know she's been putting a lot of work into it, but like we don't have room for bombs.
God, we need to bombseye these enemies.
Fuck.
Mm-hmm. Well, she was hell bent on killing the enemy or being killed.
Mm.
On June 13th of 1943, she was appointed flight commander over the 3rd Aviation Squadron, so got a nice little promotion. And on June 16th, she scored another kill, but she was wounded again. And on her way back,
Mm.
was wounded again. She got
Ooh.
wounded twice on one mission. And again, she barely landed her fighter in a belly landing. And then after that, refused to take medical attention. So she got wounded twice on the same landing, twice on the same flight, belly landed, and then was just like, nah, I'm good. Go ahead. I'm good. Go take care of somebody else.
Do you know where, like, how she was like wounded?
She
Like,
got wounded through the stomach on one of them, and then she got
what the
wounded
fuck?
through. I think one was through her arm or shoulder, or something
You're
like
just
that.
gonna
It was
leave
like
that
not.
out. You're just gonna leave that out. Like I was sitting over here, like,
Sometimes,
was it like a Trump assassination attempt, kind of
sometimes.
wounded, but like a couple days later, it's fine, or like was it
Gotta keep them guessing. Gotta keep them guessing. And obviously,
through the
at this
fucking stomach?
at this moment, they weren't killer shots. Like she could live through them. So they passed through a part of her that wouldn't necessarily be a long term effect. Through the stomach, yes, but she was able to bandage herself.
So she's like, I mean,
A
she's not
badass.
like the 50 Cent of fighter pilots, but like getting there.
Yeah. At this time,
Or
she's been
he's
wounded three
there.
times.
Or I don't know. Time's weird. Damn,
Yeah.
dude.
At 3 times. So, I mean, that's to be fair, that's kind of good because like you haven't been killed. I think that's a huge
No,
thing
it's
because
it's great. And every time she just
yeah.
gets to be like, you should have seen the other guy.
And she points and there's a down fighter pilot and it's like there's the other guy. He's dead.
Hey, just like holding up a watch in the background.
Yeah.
Hey.
It's like I told you, no. Keep your
These
watches.
Germans are fucking
Watch
obsessed with
yourself
their
next time.
watches. Oh, like,
Hmm.
maybe if you spend less time looking at your fucking watch and paying attention where you're
Yeah.
flying.
Exactly. I don't even need to know the time. I just go out there and don't give a fuck how long I'm out here. Well, throughout the next few weeks, she scored another few more kills. And I
Jesus.
technically don't know how many she's got at this time. At the end, I'll give you a kind of a good
Yeah.
figure, but she's just
Mm,
going through the skies killing people.
yeah.
Now, the Germans did not like the idea of a woman fighting in the military. They thought that it was barbaric. And when women were captured on the battlefield, they didn't even hesitate to kill them execution wise with a bullet to the head or torture, then kill them, which was a little different than they already had been doing because at least they would torture the men for
Had to spice it up,
information.
change things up. You know, we got to take it easy on them. So,
Yeah.
ladies, we can't be like everyone else with it. You know, we have to like only torture them like a little, like some hot rods, like get a woof, and then like some other things that like come in here and a few bullets that you go for the kneecaps first. You know, that's the difference between men and women. With men, you kind of like punch them in the chest and then you shoot them. Women, you just shoot them. Okay, we got to be nice to the ladies. It's called chivalry.
Yeah. Well, I mean, to be fair, they actually were more barbaric to the women in that case because they didn't even give them a chance to survive. They just
To
shot him right
starve
away.
to death.
Oh, true. They starved to death was the other one, but
Yeah, they're
they didn't.
stalags, they're fucking prison camps. Not
Yeah,
exactly great places.
not exactly great. So you're right. In a way, they were saved from being in those camps by
How
being
are they
shot in the head
going
right away.
to how are they going to launch the operation that's literally called Barbarossa? And they'd be like, they're barbaric. Like, what the
Yeah,
Germans aren't good at irony, though. I guess that's kind of the thing.
I don't think that
They're not
makes
really known
their.
for it.
I don't think their comedians have that.
No. Most
They're
German
very dry.
comedy is just like, and then he walked down the street. And this was right after he got married last Tuesday. Do you remember that very lovely wedding? Yes. So he walked down the street because his wife, she needed a Snickers bar. You know, she was having the cramps. And on the way home, he got a text message saying, "You won't believe it," with an image that showed a positive. They were going to be mother and father. And then a bus hit him and he died. Ah, that's most German comedy.
Man, that's a
So this,
terrible Snickers commercial. Why wait?
advertisements really are different in other countries.
In different countries, they go off the wall sometimes. With the positive, that's funny. With the Snickers,
It's
with
just,
the pregnancy test, and
he's
on
like,
it, the
no, no.
the Snickers turns the
She,
positive turns into the Snickers.
no, it was like his wife asked him, his newlywed wife asked him to go pick up a Snickers, and he's like stopped at a closer like carry out, and he's like, they have his Mars bars, and he like got that. He's dead on the ground. The ambulance is going, flatline sound in the background, zooms in with the bar right next to his bloody head, and it's like, should have grabbed a Snickers. Just like, no.
Yes, that's the one. That's the one. See, and Snickers
Yeah.
needs to endorse us. I feel like we have some great ideas for the future of their company. At least in
Yeah.
Germany. At
I
least
mean,
in
clearly,
Germany.
we're just giving them gold here.
Yeah, I know, right?
Shout out to Max, our German, one of our German listeners. Max, you are the shit.
Exactly. You are the
I
shit.
pre I pre apologize for my German impressions. Max is awesome. I've been chatting with him a bunch via email.
Well, that's good. I'm
And
proud of you.
shout out
Awesome.
to one of Max's students. Max is a professor in Germany. Think he's an English professor, if I remember correctly. Uh, English professor in Germany. One of his students also listens to the show, and they chat about it before class sometimes. So, Max, I
Heck
already
yeah.
sent you one of the Patreon promo upgrades for your student after Christmas or holiday break in Germany, which I know in Europe is like 5 months long or something. I don't know.
Hmm.
We don't know what rights are here. Anyways, back to German jokes.
Well, Max, too, if you have some great documentaries or anything from World War II,
Hmm.
send them over to us. I would love to watch them. I'm huge into documentaries about World War II. Um, I don't know if I want to watch some of them, though.
What?
Oh, man. Too much.
Just sends us a new Snickers commercial that came out yesterday. He's like, you guys wouldn't believe this.
You guys called it. Did you? Are you guys part of their promotional team?
What the fuck?
It's their like MK Ultra. It's their MK Ultra of marketing. Snickers, MK Ultra, marketing. They're implanting it into all of our heads.
Oh my
Well, on August 1st in 1943, Lydia made her last flight.
god.
Lydia was on her fourth sortie of the day, basically going up, going back down, fighting in the middle, going back down, going up, fighting in the middle. Maybe not fighting on the second one, coming back down, kind of just watching the aircraft going by.
Mm.
She was covering a flight of Ilyushin to. Well, it's confusing because the way I wrote that.
Need to
She
rewrite
was
it?
covering a flight of Ilyushin 2 ground attack aircraft that were returning to base. She dove in to fight a group of German bombers, and as she dove into their formation again, because that's her thing, she dove into their formation. Two Bf 109s got behind her. The last thing that was seen was her aircraft with smoke coming from it, pursued by about 8 German fighters. She
Jesus
took on
Christ.
this whole squadron herself. Probably 2 squadrons, actually, because I think squadrons are
It was
4.
like the whole squadron that had been protecting the hot air balloon. They're like, "We've come back!"
They're pissed. Yeah, we've come back for you.
What? Yeah. Damn.
Yeah. So
So at
this
this
is
point, literally an
1943.
entire like a fleet of aircraft are like targeting her.
They're targeting her. And so that was from her one of her co-pilot, one of her or her wingman. They were
Mhm.
basically watching as she was falling through the air, and they don't know what happened after that. This was literally a few days before her 22nd birthday because she was
Holy
born in
shit.
1921. She was almost 22 by the time this happened.
Fucking Christ, man.
Now, as I said a second ago, nobody really knows exactly what happened to her. And I want to get into a few theories on what people think happened to her because there is a generally huge discrepancy between what people think happened to her. And it really mattered in the way that her memorial looked and the way that she was viewed later on, right?
Mhm.
So, Russian authorities speculated that her plane was shot down, right? Which was pretty much what was happening, right? And that she had parachuted out and survived. And at this point in the Soviet Union, it really wasn't looked good on as a Soviet Union pilot to have a parachute on you. But she was noticed sometimes to put a parachute in her airplane because she had been shot twice and barely survived, right? She was kind
Yeah.
of, and she was also a rebel. She was like, "Fuck it, I'm gonna put a parachute in there."
Yeah.
She was then captured by Nazis and then subsequently killed. This is important distinction because if she was captured, you were pretty much disgraced and you could not be awarded with any medals, right? Because that was the
Yeah.
Soviet Union's thing. If you were captured, you're terrible. You're not a good fighter. You're not a good soldier. You do
Yeah.
not get the distinction of courage, no matter how hard you fight, no matter what you did. And that was the distinction that the Soviet Union at that time, the government looked at her and said, no, she didn't do well. She got captured and then she was killed.
In a cultural relativity kind of
Hmm.
sense, that's a super common belief across a lot of like warrior traditions
For
across the
sure.
world. Yeah.
For sure.
I think Americans pretty much were the ones that came and they're like, "I'm not trying to die, dude. Fuck you." Everybody's like, "What the fuck?"
Good, good job.
Good
Good
job,
job.
America.
You
Good
can
job,
survive.
America.
You can survive and be given awards after you were captured because you could have been courageous for what you did, not just because you're a coward for being captured.
Yeah, you're not a coward for being captured. Yeah. But in all fairness though, in Russia, I mean, it was like
It was kill or be killed.
it
That
was
was the whole
tradition to
idea.
die in Russia.
Yeah, yeah. It's die for Joseph Stalin,
It's
die for the
tradition.
country, die for the motherland. It's the biggest thing.
Stand on
Well,
Stalin, stand on
yeah,
business.
he's standing on business and he's standing on a lot of people's necks. So that happened a lot. Well, in 1979, they unearthed 90 other crash sites in that area, right? Because her
Mm,
family, her family had gone so far after this to basically try to prove that she didn't get captured. Because the whole time she got captured, her family got started on looking at like they were bad people too. Because just the
yeah.
history of that, and it didn't look good on their family that she got captured and then killed.
And all the
So they went
haters for the fact that she was a woman are going to be pushing that narrative of the story. And they were
exactly.
like, "No, she was badass. You're just jealous of her chrome boots." And you're
Mhm.
like,
Not 100% truth that they were trying to
yeah,
say no, that the family wasn't great, that she's just a woman, she got captured and killed. That's whatever, whatever.
yeah,
Which is kind of funny too, because I feel like a lot of times they would also look good as if she was a fighter pilot and killed a bunch of the Germans. Even that this civilian was doing this. She wasn't a civilian in the end, but
yeah.
she
But
started as a civilian. So it's kind of,
there's the propaganda to the public, and then there's the propaganda in the barracks. And those are
yep,
two different things, you
exactly.
know.
Yep. Well, after they unearthed the 90 crash sites that were around this area that she crashed, they found an unidentified female body. and they exhumed it having been buried in the village of Dmitrievka. Sorry if I say some of these words wrong because I'm not a native Russian speaker. So I'm trying my best here to say some of these cities correct. But it was assumed that this was Litviak. And this is important because it proved that she had not been captured by the Germans, and thus she was allowed to be given a posthumous award. The reason why they said they thought it wasn't that this would prove that she wasn't killed by the Germans is because she landed in a village that was not controlled by the Germans. And then she had died in the plane crash, and then they buried her, and she had a plot given to her.
Mm,
They couldn't identify her body at the time because nobody knew who she was, but they knew that she wasn't taken. And so this would allow her to get awards after death and to be not
gotcha.
basically trashed, not have her
And
Twitter trashed after she died.
also, like in '79, especially in like Soviet Russia, so much like so much weight is put behind stuff like that that like it affects the actual literal standing of your entire family within Soviet society. So it's like you're getting an upgrade on your apartment because your family's a part of the da 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 da. You're getting to
Yep.
go to this actual fucking school. You're getting to, like it actually does upgrade the quality of life for a shit ton of folks around her or,
Hmm.
I guess descendants slash family of her. So, like,
Yeah,
it's a big, big fucking deal.
that's a huge deal. Well, in
Mhm.
May 1990, all the way to 1990, she was
Birth
given
year,
the
birth
title.
month.
Hey, it's cool. You're
What
so
day was
young.
it? What day was it?
It didn't say the day, just May 1990.
It's probably on birthday.
It is on your birthday, I imagine. She was given the title Hero of the Soviet Union, huge honor, by President Mikhail Gorbachev. So
Hell
that's
yeah.
huge. All in all, she
Damn.
ended up with numerous awards given to her by the Soviet Union and became hero from the World War II era. So I want to go into she sent her last letter right before her last flight to her mom before she was killed.
Mhm.
She said this, and I think it showed her true character. And before I say it, I want to say that her patriotism was like it was like hanging on an edge, right? She
Oh,
wanted to prove to the basically the Russian government and to the people around her that she wasn't trash because her dad was killed in the purge. And so her family at the beginning was looked on really badly. And I did
yeah.
deep dive into finding why her dad was killed. There was only one guess, and it was the one guess that her family was having trouble. Like her mom and dad were getting close to a divorce, and this was looked on
Mm.
super badly. And then people around there started hearing about it, and they started talking to people. And supposedly, that's the one guess they say why her dad was killed because there was kind of like that like family unit kind of thing, and they were destabilizing it a little bit, and so that's why they think her dad was murdered, which is like a huge thing. And it led to her being like, I want to show that I'm worth something. And so she tried her hardest, and kind of why it created her like, I'm fighting for the Soviet Russia at this time to like take down the Germans. I also reiterated that literally everyone behind the Germans line side of the line was getting murdered and basically starved to death. So you have both
Yeah.
of those things coming into picture with her. Her last thing she said to her mom was, I have a burning desire to drive those German reptiles out of our land. Huge. So
You
crazy.
knew about the reptilians?
They were close to knowing about them.
Time for part two, baby.
Hmm. Part
Damn.
two. Yeah. She also had a song made for her
Reptilian
called
Boogaloo.
she also had a song made for her called Fortune Favors the Brave by an Israeli metal band, which is kind of crazy.
Fuck yeah, dude.
She had a movie
Hell
made
yeah.
about her in 2019 called Litvyak as well. So in Russia, which is kind of
Hell
cool.
yeah. Hell
Yeah.
yeah. That's fucking
Yeah.
dope, dude.
Yeah. She was an amazing person in this era of people that were not generally doing things she did. And it spoke a lot about her character that she didn't let the military take her character from her. She kind of
Yeah.
stood up against everything that they were trying to push, which looked bad on her in some parts, but because she was so immensely talented and immensely bold about what she did, she was allowed to go forward. And I think when I talked to Gil about all these things that happen, about how basically people want you all to be a certain way, and I think she stands the test of that, saying like, me and Gil always want to say we want to be more BCR than anybody else can be BCR. Basically, we want to be us more than anything else in the world, and that's the way
We're
I think
almost
that
there.
she lived, and I think that's pretty
Yeah.
fucking amazing.
Yeah. 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 And I mean, like, also, you know, I'm sure part of the fuck it attitude, and this is totally just speculation here, but if you're already looked down upon just for quite literally existing,
Mm-hmm.
it's hard just to survive, like it's hard to constantly process new ways and subtle ways that people are looking down on you for things. So it's just kind of like,
Mm-hmm.
you're going to hate me anyways. Fuck you.
Yeah, it's gonna be me. Doesn't
Like,
matter. Yeah.
give me that chrome. Like,
Yeah,
you know,
yeah. Well, thank you all for listening to this
yeah.
episode and this awesome woman, Lydia Litvyak, who was one of the pioneers and fighter aces of female fighter pilots and male fighter pilots, any fighter pilot at the time, or even now. Gil and I have a lot of thank yous to give out to our listeners, and he's gonna do one thing before we get into this. Thank you all for listening to everything in this episode and this awesome woman who is one of the pioneers and fighter aces of female fighter pilots and male fighter pilots, all the fighter pilots. We want to thank you to all of our Patreon listeners and all of our listeners in general because you guys are amazing. We know it's fucking cold out, and this is the perfect time to listen to podcasts. Get your drinks, get your coffee, get your Coke, get whatever you have in front of you, whatever you have beside you. Cuddle up, because tomorrow is National Cuddling Day. Get together, have a nice cuddle, and listen to some Black Cat Report. Gil, you want to give the thank yous to all of our Patreons again?
Shit. I am not prepared for that. I was dancing.
It's okay. I can dance it out.
All
We
of
got
our
a lot people
Patreon members, shout out again. Tim, Ian, Rochelle, Dwayne, Max, Morgan Dragonpaw, Miller's Monsters, Gavin, Jaden, Alyssa, Bree, Michael Extreme, Paranorm Girl, James C. Lee, and the one and only Poppy Kitty.
Thank you all so much for helping us do this. We appreciate you. We've got some awesome things coming up, and eventually we're excited to put out our first listener submission episode. Gil is doing some amazing research and reading. You know what? I think by the time this episode has come out, you will have seen the first Cup of Joey.
Yeah.
So hope you've enjoyed it. Hope you get to see this and then just listen to this right afterwards. We love you all.
Please remember to like and subscribe. Hit that review button wherever the heck you're at. Unless it's a bad review, then why did you listen this long? But hey, even for you too. We love you, and bye!
Bye!